Remember the motion for sanctions that Lively filed with respect to the birthing video? Well, Wayfair just responded. Recall that Lively asked for the most severe sanctions that you could possibly ask for, which is essentially preclusion of being able to speak about a particular issue, because she claims that Heath produced an excerpt of a video that she now contests is the video that she actually was shown. And recall there were redactions in that filing, and it wasn't totally clear what actually transpired, but the implication was that the piece of the video that was produced to Lively is not the same piece or part that she saw. And the legal mechanism that they used to bring this before the judge is Rule 37. So they didn't move to compel, which is what you do when you're unhappy with the discovery that you've obtained. They moved for sanctions pursuant to an alleged failure by Wayfarer to follow a court order. They basically said that the court has already compelled this information by the Wayfair parties. The Wayfair parties failed to produce the information pursuant to that order, and therefore they have failed to cooperate with a court order, and therefore these crazy sanctions are warranted. This response by Wayfair is a really beautiful piece of legal work. First, they address the order that this whole motion for sanctions is being brought under, and then they specify that the order said that they needed to comply or they needed to produce a response to this specific request. And it might feel like a little bit of ping-ponging, but essentially the request that this video was responsive to was actually a request saying, you, Wayfarer, produce documents that support your allegation in your complaint, particularly paragraph 101, which says that what Lively saw was the first image of the start of the video, which shows Heath's wife, himself, and his baby after his wife gave birth at home, a natural birth, a home birth. And that Lively falsely suggested that she was shown pornography or naked images of Heath's wife on set. So they're saying they in fact did produce exactly the video that they are referencing in that paragraph, which is exactly what Lively had requested for. In fact, they did it on August 22nd, before the court ordered them to turn over documents. And they note that Lively seems to have various takes on what she was shown and did not object to that video that they received. So why now, 2 months later, after that video was produced, are we seeing a motion for sanctions when no motion to compel has been filed? They had over a month before the discovery deadline ended on September 30th to bring this complaint to the court, and they did not do so. And now suddenly they are interpreting their request to include all videos of Heath's children's births to be produced. And she should be allowed to intrude into a highly personal, sensitive matter involving Heath's wife. They say, and I agree, that it has become an unfortunate habit of Lively to seek the most egregious sanctions possible where their evidence has not turned up to be sufficient for them. And their tactic is to muzzle the defendants from being able to defend themselves by saying that they didn't get what they needed when they in fact got what they asked for. The letter goes on to describe the legal requirements for imposing sanctions under this rule and outlining exactly what that would require, which is for Heath or the Wayfarer parties to willfully disobey a court order. And they explained that the court order never said you need to produce every single video of your children's birth, which is what Lively seems to be asking for here. And as I suspected, the redacted part of their motion misled us to believe that he confirmed something differently at his deposition, when they're stating right here that Heath confirmed in his deposition that the video shown to Lively and produced in this action was not an incomplete excerpt of a longer video showing the full labor and birth of Heath's child, as Lively suggests. It was a separate and distinct video taken after the birth of his daughter. And he further said that he wouldn't have kept those types of intimate videos on his phone because he was worried that it could fall into the wrong hands. Oh, you mean like the entire world? The other thing that they point out in this letter is that Lively is not only seeking all of the videos, but she's also seeking to muzzle them from being able to speak about it. Why do you get both? If you want them to not be allowed to defend themselves about this issue, then why do you need copies of the videos? They point out that if there is some question of what she saw, then a jury will decide based off of the credibility of the witnesses. Meaning she will go on the witness stand and say, the video I saw looked like this, and Heath will go on the witness stand and said, this is the video that I showed. And at the end of the day, those jurors will be like, which one do I believe more? And they get to decide. And they point out that this implicates the privacy interests of his wife, Natasha Heath, who is not a party to this action and whose personal and intimate experience should not be blasted for the entire world to see. Remember that Wayfarer is not on trial for whether or not they showed a particular video or not. They are being accused of creating a hostile work environment, one instance of which is this alleged showing of inappropriate video footage that related to Heath's children's birth. So the question for the jury is not going to be whether or not he showed it, because he is admitting that he showed a video. So the question for the jury will be whether or not they think that the video constituted a severe or pervasive harassment incident, whether it arose to an unreasonable degree in all of the instances put together. And truly, one does not need further imagery to decide whether or not it constituted a hostile work environment. All this does is embarrass Heath's wife. At the end of the day, the judge is required to impose the least harsh sanctions if he is so inclined to even issue sanctions here. I don't think there will be sanctions here because it seems ridiculous that they are fighting this after the discovery deadline has ended, when they had ample opportunity to fight this during discovery. So I think this is going to be a wash. The most I could see the judge granting is for them to turn over all the videos that might be from that particular birthing event and say that they need to be looked at in camera, meaning with him and the parties. But even that just feels like an unnecessary invasion of someone else's privacy for very little gain.